Has everyone seen our prehab routine? We've got a generic prehab routine, which is not necessarily specific for everyone, but it's got a wide variety of, just to give you a little background on the prehab routine, how it came about. We did testing with the QAS baseball squad over the last sort of 10 years of the previous QAS testings, Bruce Rawson and Andrew McGough. Andrew McGough, who still does our testing with our program to this day, they did testing on our athletes to try and identify common deficiencies within teenage baseballing athletes and identify some of those areas that could potentially lead to an increased risk of injury down the track. So when they tested all of these guys, and they continued to test them, over the last 10 years, they continued to find common trends in terms of those baseball athletes and the sort of deficiencies that they had. And they identified core stability issues, hip, knee, ankle joint stability issues, internal rotation range deficit, external rotation strength deficit, stuff like that. Common things that they saw across a whole variety of our kids that would come through every year, but we'd identify the same deficiencies. So as a result, the prehab routine was designed for specifically addressing those particular deficiencies that they found just kept coming up again and again and again. And now we have what's called a prehab routine. So you get injured, the physio, someone gives you exercises, they call it a rehabilitation program, correct? Prehab is the stuff that you do to prevent those injuries happening in the first place. Does that make sense? Right. So that prehab stuff that Stu was talking about, those daily habits, are the sort of things that you need to mix into your program. Whether you go to the gym or not, these are the things that you could potentially do at home on your own. I don't know if Dave ever had anything similar, but on the back of my wall growing up as a kid, we never had a prehab routine or had anything called a prehab routine. But I had a poster on the back of the wall, and I'm not sure exactly where I got it. I think I got it from my physio the first time I had some sort of arm injury, and it was just a whole series of shoulder exercises and a big thick rubber tube, but it actually had a poster of a series of those things, and I used to tie it to my door handle and sit there doing basically what is very similar type exercises to our prehab routine. And it used to sit on the back of my door, so every night before I'd go to bed, I'd spend 10 or 15 minutes just doing shoulder exercises. And that's basically the same as what we're at these days in regards to having a prehab routine. It's just these little daily habits that you guys need to develop that are going to help maintain your body, are going to help address all of that stress that's on particular areas of your body because of the demands of baseball. And if you want to be successful, if you want to really push yourself to its limits, then you're going to have to train hard, and that's going to mean there's more stress on your body. So you've got to make sure you prepare yourself. It's that ongoing circle. Anyway, let's carry on. All right. Strength. How do we develop strength? So we talked about a couple of qualities. We talked about speed. We talked about resilience. How do we develop strength? Does anyone know how we could develop strength? Anyone?
Increase resistance.
Yeah, increase the resistance. Gradually increase the external resistance or load. So what have you noticed in terms of what we do on field with the conditioning at the end of the QBA on-field sessions? What do we do? What sort of exercises do we do? Yeah, we do bridges. What else?
Push-ups.
Push-ups. Yeah, what else? Sorry, there's a bit of mumbling going on at the back. I'm not sure. Bodyweight squats. Yeah. Right, so that's bodyweight stuff, right? Pretty simple stuff. We start. What do you think we're working on when we do those things?
Getting the technique right.
Yeah, getting the technique right. Yep. What else? So there's not a lot of external load with those, is there? What qualities of those movements do you think we're working on? What are some of the things that Stu's already talked about tonight?
Posture.
Yeah, posture. So we're developing posture in certain movements, making sure that we can keep our chest up when we squat to make sure our back stays nice and straight. What else?
Stability.
Stability. Yeah. So Stu talked about flexibility and stability being pivotal to developing power and speed and all of those things. The first things that we address in our on-field strength and conditioning stuff is exactly those things. Stability of your joints, range of movement around your joints, that's our starting point. What's the next piece of equipment we introduce to your conditioning program?
TheraBands.
TheraBands. What do you think that is? That's an external resistance. All right, so something other than your body weight. All right, so slowly over time we're working on the flexibility, we're working on the stability around joints, we're adding some external resistance. All right, and that's how we do it. Obviously you start with body weight exercises, we progress to band exercises, and then eventually we can get to weights. How many guys here lift weights? A few guys? That's okay. If you don't at the moment, that's okay too. You can do lots of good strength exercises without necessarily lifting weights, but it is one way, a very common way, a very popular way to increase the external load. All right, so increase the resistance of the movements that you're practicing to try and develop strength over time. All right, and notice the word gradually. All right, if you go to a squat and you've never done a squat before and you load the squat, you throw 100 kilos on the bar and get under the squat bar, what's going to happen? Yeah, it's going to be too much for you to tolerate, isn't it? So we start very, very low and we gradually progress our way up over time. It's pretty simple stuff. That's right, gradually increase the external load. All right, so that's what we mean by progressive overload. Okay, so we don't just throw you out there and throw you under a bus and just load you up with a whole bunch of load. We gradually increase the load over time. And are you going to talk about the supercompensation model? Hadn't planned on? That's okay. No, that's okay. I can touch on it now. So this is a very common theme that'll come up in all of your conditioning type stuff. Let's say this is your performance. It could be speed, it could be your strength, or any other things plotted on a graph. When you train, let's say the X is where you have a training session. What actually happens to your body is you break your body down because of the stress of the training, and then as you rest, as you get food, as you recover, your body starts to adapt. All right, so if this is your previous level, what the body tries to do is what? All right, it tries to get to a supercompensate or adapt. So it tries to rebuild your body to a certain point that's just slightly above where it was previously, so that it can tolerate the load a little better than what you exerted the body under. So train here, stress, you break your body down. As you rest and recover, you come back up here, your body, the super machine that it is, rebuilds it to a level slightly over and above where you started from. All right, this is how we get stronger. So if you recover fully and then you train again, same thing, rest and recover. Hopefully you come up here, train again here, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, over time, this line is gradually heading north, isn't it? That's when we're improving our performance. We're getting faster, we're getting stronger. All right, so what happens if we train before we've fully recovered? What happens if we train again here? And then we train again here. All right, so notice that performance line is now heading south. All right, so Jono's going to talk about recovery a little bit later on, but that is just a little indication of, probably my drawing's not real great, but you get the idea. So our body naturally adapts to the stress that's provided on it and improves itself so that the next time that it gets exposed to that same amount of stress, it can tolerate it better. Does that make sense? All right, so when we're talking about progressive overload, that's what we're trying to do. We provide a light external load to start with to try and stress your body just a little bit more than it's used to. That stress causes an adaptation or a training response, and your body improves itself so it's just a little bit stronger than it was before. And if you repeat that process over and over again, getting adequate recovery and rest in between, eventually your strength, your speed, your power, all of those things will improve. All right, so the NCAS Level 4 Strength, National Accreditation Manual has a very specific process for developing strength in baseball athletes, and it involves 7 different movement types. Nilly's going to talk about those in a minute, so I'll let him do that. But what are some things that you could potentially, we talked about it before with regards to speed, what are some things that you could potentially use in terms of cross-training to try and develop your strength? So again, there's specific training specifically for strength, like using weights and all of those things. What other things could you potentially do? What other activities could you do to help improve your strength and power?
Bike weight.
Sorry, what?
Bike weight.
Didn't quite understand it again. Try me again.
Like riding the bike.
Right. What was the first one you said? Bikeway. Bikeway. What's a bikeway? As in, like riding on the bikeway. Is that what you mean?
Work.
Bike work.
Yeah.
Pronounce. Come on. Get your words out. It's all right. I get it. Riding your bike. Yeah, that could work. Is it particularly hard riding a bike up a hill? Maybe. Yep. But certainly riding on the flat. Maybe not so much. Maybe more endurance. What's some other stuff though that could, I guess, when we talk about strength, applying an external load, what's some things that you could do to help develop strength? What are some other sports or activities that could help develop your strength?
Martial arts, boxing.
Yeah, exactly. Physical stuff, martial arts, boxing, contact sports are obviously, there's a lot of strength required in those activities. So again, rather than just going and training specifically for the sake of developing that quality, if you participate in other activities, you can certainly develop those qualities as well. The football codes are, again, lots of tackling, all of that sort of stuff require a lot of strength. That's a good way to develop your physical strength, which can still be transferred across to baseball. So certainly for young athletes, I'm all for kids playing multiple sports for as long as we can. I hope that you stay with baseball in the long run, obviously, but it's important that, for the sake of your athletic development, the more sports that you play at a young age, the wider range of physical skills that you'll have. All right, so that's another way of developing. Just because you're baseball players and you think ultimately baseball is going to be your number one love doesn't mean you can't go out and play other sports. Just got to be sensible about it.